Welcome everyone to another segment of Good Weekend, Bad Weekend. I'm your host, as always, Crazy Boom, to go into another weekend's action. So let's get right into it. Coming in at number 5 for Bad Weekend is once again Shamrock Rovers. They were on this the last one that I did, and they're on it again this time for the second game of the league campaign, drawing 1-1 with Drogheda United. They were 1-0 up for the majority of the game, and the 2 late red cards meant they went down to 9 men and ended up conceding a very late equaliser in the 89th minute to Drogheda. Yet again, second game in a row, dropped points. Not the best start on the road to try and retain. And that is why Shamrock Rovers are number 5 for Bad Weekend. Number 5 for Good Weekend is another Irish team, and that is Bohemians. Also from Dublin, Shamrock Rovers rivals. They continued their impressive start with their second win in the league. That's 2 from 2. They're the only Irish team to still be with the maximum amount of points with two games. And they won comfortably 2-1 against Dundalk, very much like they did against Cork City in the first game. Another 2-1 scoreline. They love 2-1s, it seems, at the beginning of the season. But yeah, they scored 2 goals, 1 in each half, and survived a late scare from Dundalk near the very end of that game. All in all, an impressive result for Bohemians. And let's see if they can keep this momentum going from their first 2 games into more season when they get to those Dublin derbies. Who knows? But that is why, with this result and these points that they've got so far, is why they are number 5 for Good Weekend. Now, number 4 for Bad Weekend is Rangers. Now, losing a final is never a good weekend, but especially if you lose the said final to your rivals like they did. They lost 2-1 in the Scottish League Cup final to Celtic, and Celtic were very dominant on every stat, apart from yellow cards and corners, which is all in all just a bad weekend for Rangers. They never like losing to Celtic, especially when there's a trophy on the line. Number 4 for Good Weekend is Dortmund. Now, Dortmund have continued their resurgence in their league form and results as a whole with a 1-0 victory against Hoffenheim. Now, I know 1-0 doesn't exactly scream very good performance, but the 1-0 did not tell the story. They had 12 shots on target in the game. They had one goal ruled out by VAR, and this win keeps them in the title race. It put them first at the time until Bayern's game against Union Berlin, but very impressive and makes the title race very interesting, and Dortmund look very strong in that race. And that is why they are number 4. Good Weekend. Number 3 in Bad Weekend, I have put Birmingham City. Now, Birmingham City lost 1-0 to Luton Town, thanks to a goal from Charlton Morris in the 47th minute. And results recently have not been great for Birmingham City as a whole in this league, but against Luton Town to have 0 shots on target in the match is why they have made this list. And number 3 for Bad Weekend. And plus everything going on in the media with Birmingham City at the moment, it's just not a good situation for them as a whole at this particular time. Number 3 for Good Weekend is the other team in the Bundesliga title race at the moment. It was Bayern Munich. And Bayern Munich, what can I say about them? They looked very impressive. They beat Union Berlin 3-0 with ease, pretty much. They made Union Berlin look like Union Berlin from the season before, not the Union Berlin that has impressed us immensely this season. All 3 goals came in the first half. Against Union Berlin, never got a shot on target through the entire game. It was all Bayern Munich. They pretty much controlled the the second half was kind of more of a training exercise the second half for them personally. But this result is a massive result considering Union Berlin were tied on points with Bayern Munich and Dortmund it was a bit of a three-way title race. And now there's a bit of a gap between Bayern and Union Berlin as they go on top on goal difference, neck and neck with Dortmund, which is why this title race is looking very interesting. Because Union Berlin aren't out of it either. It's just they didn't really perform in this game, and Bayern looked beautiful. And that is why Bayern are number 3. Good weekend. Numero 2 for bad weekend is Liverpool. Now, it's not been a great week as a whole for Liverpool. After a very poor showing at home to Real Madrid, which we did a watch along here on this channel, where they lost 5-2 after being 2-0 up. And they then travelled this weekend to a struggling Palace. It's fair to say for Palace's season at the moment, to get back on track. But we saw what we saw wasn't really a great performance. They hit the woodwork at least twice, but after conceding 5 at home, you expect a better display from Liverpool than a display that failed to win against Palace for the first time since the 14-15 season. Numero 2 for good weekend is Celtic Football Club. Now, Celtic beat Rangers, like I told you, in the bad weekend for Rangers. It's been a very good weekend. Beating Rangers in the Cup is always a good thing for Celtic. Beating them at any point for Celtic is a very good thing for them. Beating Rangers at any point for Celtic is always a good point for them. And it's always a good weekend. It's always a good weekend for Celtic when they beat Rangers, especially in a final where they dominated fully, 2 goals from Kyogo, and that's 3 trophies out of 4 for the Celtic manager. So, all in all, great weekend for Celtic fans. And now we get to number 1. And number 1 for bad weekend is, no surprise at the moment, considering we covered them a lot recently, is Chelsea. It's no surprise Chelsea have been on shaky form at best throughout the season, throughout the month of February, only scoring once in a 1-1 draw with West Ham. Following that, with losing to Dortmund and Southampton, a lot of pressure was piling up on Potter as he went into this London derby this weekend, where unfortunately their lack of goals have continued to shine a light at the fact they went 2-0 down to Spurs. Chelsea, in fact, have scored the fewest goals in the Prem since November. And you can honestly tell Potter's side did not even look like scoring once throughout this game. And they could have gotten it worse if it wasn't for VAR intervening with a red card decision to Ziyech, demoting it to just a yellow card. It could have been worse for Graham Potter today. But losing 2-0 to Spurs on top of all their other results in the past few weeks is why this is a bad weekend for Chelsea, considering they have not lost to Spurs in their last six to eight times actually since playing them. So, very bad weekend for Chelsea, and that is why Chelsea Football Club are number 1 for bad weekend. And as we know, Chris, our fellow host for the watch-alongs, doesn't think Graham Potter should be in the job. And it's getting harder and harder for some people to defend him. Other thing. But what we don't condone is threats to him or his family. There are some lines you don't cross in football. And that is one of them. That is what I will end this part with for bad weekend as we go to number 1 for good weekend. And number 1 for good weekend is Manchester United. That is right, Manchester United, number 1 for good weekend after ending their 6-year trophy drought to win the Carabao Cup 2-0 at Wembley against Newcastle United. It was a game with two good defenses in the league going back up against each other, and that showed pretty much more in the second half. The good defensive battle, because there wasn't much goals in the first. There wasn't much goals in the second half. All of the goals came in the first half. A free kick, Luke Shaw whipped it in. Casemiro just onside, headed it home, and then followed up by Wout Weghorst. Followed it up by playing Rashford through, and he shot it with a bit of a deflection that beat Karius. Some people criticize Karius for that, but apart from that non-save, he had a fairly good game. The defenses for both teams were really good for the most part. Just two of those clinical moments of United scoring and Newcastle not really testing enough. They couldn't really get past the defense in the second half. Aaron Wan-Bissaka onto the pitch really nullified their chances, which Alan St. Maximin had been creating all game. But when Aaron came on in the second half, limited opportunities for that man. And the game really showed United's experience came true over Newcastle, who have waited a lot longer for a trophy or even finals. They've not been in one for a while, and that kind of showed in this game. But that kind of showed in the game as United controlled the second half for the most part. And Erik ten Hag and his team have their first trophy of Erik ten Hag's reign at the club, which makes this a really great weekend for Manchester United. And that will do it for good weekend, bad weekend this time. I hope you all like this video. Leave a comment down below. Share it on to your friends, to your family, to anyone. Hit that subscribe button. And remember to hit that bell, because that bell really shows you when our videos are being uploaded, because YouTube doesn't push videos enough. So you gotta hit that bell so you don't miss any content, because we have a lot of content coming out now and again. We have an impressive non-league shows now. We have previews for competitions. We have the watch-alongs that we always do. We have podcasts nearly every Thursday. So we really want to keep pushing this. We're growing immensely lately, and we want you to continue to support. So please show it, because we love bringing you football content and just talking about football in general with the community. So I will see you in the next good weekend, bad weekend. Thanks for watching.